The massive viewing screen in Earth's embassy showed the Krell fleet approaching. Hundreds of alien ships moved slowly but steadily toward the solar system. Ambassador Alan Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the images. After 15 years of peaceful relations with the Galactic Council, humanity faced its first real threat. "How long until they reach Earth?" Alan asked, his voice steady despite his fear. His aide, Greg Peters, checked the data pad. 4 days at their current speed, sir." Alan nodded. "Then we have 4 days to convince the Council to honor their defense agreement." Earth had joined the Galactic Council, a union of 27 advanced alien civilizations, after humans developed faster-than-light travel. The agreement seemed perfect. Earth would share its unique scientific approach in exchange for protection and technology. For 15 years, that arrangement had worked well. Now, it would be tested. The next morning, Alan stood before the full Council in the Great Circular Chamber on Centauri Prime. Giant windows revealed the beautiful ringed planet below. Representatives from all 27 member worlds sat in rising tiers around him. Some looked like humans, others were completely different. Crystalline beings, gaseous forms contained in special suits, and everything in between. "Honorable members of the Council," Alan began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "The Krell Armada approaches Earth with clear hostile intent. We invoke Article 7 of our membership agreement, which guarantees military support in case of unprovoked aggression." High Counselor Drax, a tall, blue-skinned humanoid, leaned forward. "Ambassador Miller, the Krell are not a simple threat. They have destroyed 12 civilizations in the past century. Their technology surpasses even our own in many ways. Which is exactly why we need the Council's help," Alan replied. "Earth cannot stand alone against such power." From her position behind the ambassador, Major Lisa Bennett watched the faces of the Council members. After 5 years as military attaché at the embassy, she had learned to read most alien expressions. What she saw now worried her. The Council members avoided eye contact, shifted in their seats, and showed other signs of discomfort across all species. High Counselor Drax called for a vote. "Those in favor of honoring Article 7 and sending the combined fleet to defend Earth indicate now." Lisa held her breath. One by one, small holographic lights appeared in front of each Council member. Red for no, green for yes. Red, red, red. The lights continued to appear. Red, red, red. Only one green light shone in the chamber, belonging to Zorax, the elderly Arcturian representative. His 4 eyes blinked sadly at the human delegation. "The Council has voted," Drax announced. "With 26 votes against and 1 in favor, the motion is rejected." Alan stepped forward, shock visible on his face. "This is a direct violation of our agreement. You swore to protect all member worlds." Drax raised a hand. "The Council has made a further decision. To prevent the Krell from discovering the location of the Council worlds, we are implementing Emergency Protocol 9. The Sol system will be quarantined. No ships will be permitted to enter or leave until the Krell situation is resolved." "You're not just abandoning us, you're trapping us with them," Alan shouted, his diplomatic calm finally breaking. "Council security will escort all Earth personnel to their vessels. You have 12 hours to leave Centauri Prime. All communication with Earth will cease immediately." Drax stood. "This session is adjourned." The Council members rose and filed out, avoiding the eyes of the human delegation. As the chamber emptied, Lisa felt a light touch on her arm. Zorax, the Arcturian who had voted to help Earth, stood beside her. "I am deeply ashamed of today's decision, Major Bennett," he whispered, his translator making his clicks and whistles understandable. "Not all of us agree with this betrayal." "Then, do something," Lisa hissed. Zorax slipped something into her hand. "This contains technical data that might help. It is all I can offer now." He glanced nervously at the departing Council members. "The Krell have a weakness, though the Council pretends not to know it." Before Lisa could ask more, security officers approached. "All Earth personnel must return to their ship immediately." 6 hours later, The diplomatic vessel broke orbit from Centauri Prime. Lisa sat in her cabin, examining the small data crystal Zorax had given her. She inserted it into her secure terminal. Pages of technical information about Krell ships and biology appeared. This could be useful, she muttered, quickly copying the data to an encrypted channel. She composed a message to her handler at Earth Defense Command. Covenant broken. We stand alone. Sending critical intelligence on enemy weakness. Prepare for the worst. She added the Krell data and sent the message through their emergency quantum channel. Technology Earth had never shared with the Council. On Earth, Commander. Paul West was already monitoring the approaching Krell fleet when Lisa's message arrived. The night sky above the Colorado Command Center glowed with unusual activity as defense systems came online worldwide. They abandoned us, Paul said quietly after reading the message. The other officers in the command room fell silent. Colonel Sam Reeves, Paul's second-in-command, spoke up. What do we do now, sir? Our planetary defenses can't stop a fleet that size. Paul's face hardened. Get me Director Kelly Harrison at Project Phoenix. Authorization code, broken shield. 5 minutes later, the large screen showed a woman in her 60s with short gray hair. Commander West, I was hoping we'd never need to have this conversation. The Council voted against helping us, Director. They've quarantined our system and left us to face the Krell alone. Kelly nodded grimly. Just as some of us feared they might. How long until the Krell arrive? Less than 3 days now. Project Phoenix needs 5 days to fully activate. Paul shook his head. We don't have 5 days. We'll need to buy you time. Understood. I'll begin immediate preparation of all Phoenix sites. The director's eyes showed determination. Commander, what we're about to do has never been attempted. The risk of doing nothing is extinction, Director. Paul interrupted. The Council betrayed us. Now they'll learn that was a mistake. After the call ended, Paul turned to his team. Inform all defense forces worldwide. We're initiating Contingency Plan Delta. Our job is to hold off the Krell long enough for Project Phoenix to activate. Colonel Reeves looked worried. Sir, if Phoenix works, the Council will know we've been hiding our true capabilities from them for years. Paul's smile held no humor. If we survive this, Sam, I hope the Council watches and learns. Never corner, a species that evolved as prey and became the planet's apex predator. The Krell think they're hunting easy targets. They're wrong. Above Earth, the planetary defense grid powered up. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from lunar bases. And deep beneath the surface of Mars, enormous machines built in secret began to awaken. The Krell were coming. Earth stood alone. But humanity was far from helpless, and the Council would soon understand exactly what they had done. 3 years had passed since the Krell invasion began. Earth was a changed world. Major cities lay in ruins, their once proud skylines now jagged silhouettes against the dusty sky. The Krell, with their superior technology, had overwhelmed Earth's visible defenses within weeks. But they had not expected what came next. Jack Reynolds crawled through the underground tunnel that connected his resistance base to the old subway system. Before the invasion, he had been a college professor teaching world history. Now he led one of the largest resistance cells in North America. Dirt covered his face and clothes as he made his way back from a successful mission. How did it go? Asked Heather Boyd, his second-in-command, when Jack finally emerged into their hidden base beneath the Rocky Mountains. Jack pulled a small metal device from his bag. Got it. Krell communication node intact. He handed the alien technology to Heather with a tired smile. Our tech team should be able to crack more of their language with this. Their base housed over 300 survivors. Some were former military, others civilians who had learned to fight. Deep underground, the Krell sensors couldn't detect them. The insect-like aliens controlled the surface but struggled to root out resistance fighters who struck quickly and disappeared into hidden bunkers. We lost Eric, Jack added quietly. Krell Patrol spotted him during extraction. He held them off so we could get away. Heather closed her eyes briefly. Another name for their memorial wall. He died a hero. Heroes keep dying while the Krell keep coming, Jack said bitterly. We need something bigger than these small victories. Their conversation was interrupted by Sam Wilson, their communications expert. Jack, we're receiving a transmission on the emergency frequency. They rushed to the communications room where Sam was adjusting dials on equipment salvaged from military bases and enhanced with reverse-engineered Krell tech. Signals coming from off-planet, Sam explained, his eyes wide. It's using Earth Defense Force encryption. Jack's heart raced. That's impossible. The space fleet was destroyed in the first wave. A voice crackled through the static. Resistance forces, this is Admiral Karen Foster of the Earth Defense Fleet. Authentication code Sierra 9 Delta Whiskey. Jack recognized the authentication code immediately. It was genuine. This is Jack Reynolds, Colorado Resistance. We read you, Admiral, but how? The fleet was reported destroyed. Reports of our destruction were strategic, Admiral Foster replied. When the Council betrayed us, we activated Protocol Diaspora. Most of the fleet retreated to our secret facility on Europa. On board the EDF Avenger, hidden in Jupiter's shadow, Admiral Karen Foster stood before a holographic map of the solar system. At 55, her once dark hair now showed streaks of gray, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. Around her, crew members worked at various stations, monitoring the ship's systems and tracking Krell movements. For 3 years, we've been gathering strength, Karen continued, building ships using the resources from Jupiter's moons and the asteroid belt. The Krell don't patrol this far out regularly. Her second-in-command, Captain George Wilson, approached with a data pad. Latest report from the Luna shipyards, Admiral. The new vessels are at 87% completion. Karen nodded. Tell them to accelerate. We move in 3 weeks. She turned back to the communications console. Mr. Reynolds, are you still receiving? We're here, Admiral, Jack's voice replied. But we're barely holding on. The Krell control all major cities. They're stripping the planet of resources. We know. But what they don't know is that Earth was never as defenseless as we let the Council believe. Karen nodded to her communications officer. We're sending you coordinates and instructions for Operation Sunstorm. Each resistance cell has a part to play. On Earth, Jack studied the information coming through their secure channel. His eyes widened as he understood the scale of what was being planned. This is enormous, he said to Heather and Sam. They want us to simultaneously hit Krell command centers on the ground while the fleet attacks from space. Can we do it? Heather asked. Jack nodded slowly. We'll need to contact other resistance groups and we'll need more weapons. Sam pointed to a section of the transmission. Look at this part about special packages. They're going to drop supply canisters at these coordinates. Then we better get ready to retrieve them, Jack said. Operation Sunstorm begins in 3 weeks. In the days that followed, resistance fighters worldwide received similar messages. Hidden caches of advanced weapons, technology Earth had developed, in secret but never shared with the Council, were distributed to key resistance cells. Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, Dr. Olivia Wright supervised the final testing of her biological agent. The Red Planet had housed Earth's most secret research facilities, built deep underground and shielded from both Council and Krell detection. Test sequence complete, reported her assistant, Ben Garcia. The agent breaks down the neural links between Krell drones and their queens without killing the individuals. Olivia nodded with satisfaction. Package it for delivery. The fleet will need it for the final phase. At 42, Olivia had been one of Earth's top biological researchers. Before the invasion, when the attack came, she was already on Mars working on classified projects. Now her work might save what remained of humanity. Do you think it will work? Ben asked quietly. It has to, Olivia replied. The Krell function as a hive mind during combat operations. Break that link and they lose their coordination advantage. Back on Europa, Captain Steve Johnson prepared his special operations team. Their mission was perhaps the most dangerous part of Operation Sunstorm, infiltrating the Krell command ship in Earth orbit to deploy Dr. Wright's neural disruptor. The USS Defiance is ready, sir, reported Lieutenant Diane Miller, his pilot. Steve nodded as he inspected their ship. The Defiance looked like a standard Earth vessel from the outside, but inside it contained technology the Krell would never expect. A hybrid of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien systems. "Our window will be small," Steve told his team of 12 elite soldiers. "While Admiral Foster's fleet engages the main Krell forces, we slip in, plant the disruptor, and get out." "And if we're detected?" asked Sergeant Frank Cooper. "Then we make sure the mission succeeds anyway," Steve replied grimly. As the day of Operation Sunstorm approached, hope spread among the resistance fighters for the first time in years. On Earth, Jack's team prepared to assault the Krell command center in what had once been Denver. Similar preparations took place worldwide. In space, Admiral Foster gathered her fleet, over 60 ships built in secret, crewed by the survivors of Earth's space forces and new recruits trained in the Jupiter system. "Send the signal," she ordered. "All units prepare for Phase 1. The Krell took our world. It's time we took it back." Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared to strike back. The Council had abandoned Earth, believing humans would be easily defeated. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. The night sky over what was once Denver glowed with an eerie green light, the result of Krell atmospheric processors that were slowly changing Earth's air to better suit the invaders. Jack Reynolds lay flat on a hillside overlooking the city, using high-powered binoculars to study the massive structure that had once been the state capitol building. Now it served as the regional Krell command center. "I count 12 guards at the main entrance," he whispered to Heather, who lay beside him. "2 patrol units circling the perimeter. Their security seems lighter than usual," Heather observed. Just as Admiral Foster predicted, Jack checked his watch. "The space battle begins in 30 minutes. Once it starts, most of their forces will be distracted." They crawled backward down the hill to where 20 resistance fighters waited with weapons that would have been considered experimental before the invasion. Each fighter carried a pulse rifle and wore lightweight armor made from Krell materials captured in previous raids. "Everyone clear on the plan?" Jack asked. The fighters nodded. Their faces showed a mix of fear and determination. "Remember, our job isn't to defeat all the Krell, just to create enough chaos to keep them from responding to the main attack in orbit." Jack pointed to the special backpacks 3 fighters wore. "The EMP devices need to be placed at these 3 points. That will disable their communication with the ships above." As they prepared to move out, Jack's radio crackled. "All ground units, this is Admiral Foster. Fleet is in position. Operation Sunstorm commences in 20 minutes. Good luck." Jack took a deep breath. "This is it, people. Let's move." In space, Admiral Karen Foster stood on the bridge of her flagship, the EDF Avenger. Through the view screen, Earth shone blue and green against the blackness of space. Though, brown patches now marked areas where Krell terraforming had begun. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain George Wilson announced. "The Krell don't appear to have detected us yet," Karen nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Launch stealth missiles." Throughout, the fleet missile bays opened. Hundreds of small projectiles flew toward the Krell ships orbiting Earth. These weren't conventional explosives. They carried specialized EMP devices designed to temporarily disable Krell systems. "Missiles will reach targets in 3 minutes," the weapons officer reported. Karen turned to her communications officer. "Signal Captain Johnson, tell him to commence Phase 2. Near Earth, hidden behind a small moon, the USS Defiance powered up its engines. Unlike the other ships in Earth's fleet, the Defiance was built for stealth, not combat. Its hull contained materials that absorbed sensor scans, making it nearly invisible. "Signal from the Admiral," Lieutenant Diane Miller reported. "Phase 2 is go." Captain Steve Johnson nodded. "Take us in, Lieutenant. Quiet approach." The Defiance slipped from behind the moon and moved toward the massive Krell command ship that hung in orbit above Earth. This ship, nearly a mile long, coordinated all Krell forces in the system. "Approaching target," Diane reported. "Their sensors aren't tracking us." Steve turned to his team. "Suit up. We board in 5 minutes." The 12 soldiers checked their specialized infiltration suits and weapons. Each carried a small portion of Dr. Wright's neural disruptor. Only when combined and activated in the Krell ship's ventilation system would it work. Remember, Steve told them, we need to reach the central air processing unit. The ship's layout should match the schematics we took from the Krell base in Australia. Suddenly, bright flashes lit up space around them as Admiral Foster's stealth missiles struck the Krell fleet. Ship after ship went dark as their systems failed. That's our cue, Steve said. Let's move. The Defiance approached the now vulnerable command ship and extended a docking tube. Steve's team moved quickly through the tube and into the alien vessel. On Earth, Jack's resistance team was making its move. As the Krell ships in orbit suddenly lost power, confusion spread among the ground forces. Jack led his team toward the command center using the chaos as cover. EMP team, move up, he ordered. 3 fighters broke from the main group, heading for different sections of the building. The rest provided covering fire as Krell guards emerged to investigate the disturbance. They're not coordinating their defense, Heather noted, as she fired her pulse rifle. The hive mind must already be affected. Jack nodded. That means Dr. Wright's early phase disruptor is working. Let's push forward before they recover. Inside the Krell command ship, Steve and his team moved through dimly lit corridors. The ship's emergency systems had activated after the EMP strike, but most functions remained offline. This way, Steve whispered, following the memorized floor plan. The central air system should be 2 levels down. They encountered little resistance. Most of the Krell crew was trying to restore power and communications. When they did meet enemy soldiers, the fights were brief and one-sided. Without their hive mind coordination, the individual Krell were much less effective fighters. Central Air Processing Unit ahead, reported Sergeant Frank Cooper, checking, a handheld scanner. I'm detecting 6 Krell inside. Steve signaled his team to take positions around the doorway. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, go. They burst into the room, firing with precision. Within seconds, all 6 Krell lay unconscious from stun blasts. Set up the disruptor, Steve ordered. We have 7 minutes before the main fleet attack begins. His team quickly assembled the components of Dr. Wright's device and connected it to the air system. Once activated, it would spread throughout the entire ship within minutes. Device is armed, Frank reported. Activating now. A soft hum filled the air as the disruptor powered up. On a small screen, they watched as the microscopic agents began flowing through the ship's ventilation ducts. Now we get out of here, Steve said. Fast. As they turned to leave, the ship's communication system suddenly crackled to life. A voice spoke in broken English, a Krell commander trying to coordinate with ground forces. Then, unexpectedly, another transmission broke through. This is Ambassador Zorax of the Arcturian Republic. We are under attack by the Voidborn near Proxima Centauri. The Council defenses have failed. If anyone receives this transmission, please respond. We need help. Steve froze. Record that message, he ordered. Admiral Foster needs to hear this. In orbit, Karen watched as her fleet moved into attack position. The Krell ships were beginning to recover from the EMP attack, but they moved erratically, without their usual precision. Captain Johnson reports the disruptor is deployed, George, I informed her. They're heading back to the Defiance now. Karen nodded. Begin Phase 3, all ships engage targets. Earth's fleet opened fire on the disorganized Krell vessels. Ships that would normally have easily outmaneuvered human vessels now moved sluggishly, their crews unable to coordinate complex actions. On the surface, Jack's team had successfully planted their EMP devices. When activated, they knocked out power to the entire Krell command center. All teams report success, Heather told Jack as they regrouped at their rally point. Krell forces are in disarray worldwide. Jack looked up at the night sky where flashes of light marked the space battle. Let's hope it's enough. What none of them knew was that the coming victory would bring an unexpected complication and a difficult choice. As Captain Johnson rushed back to report the mysterious distress call, humanity's future hung in the balance. The Council that had betrayed Earth now faced extinction themselves, and soon, Earth would have to decide whether to return the favor. 7 years had passed since the Krell invasion. Earth looked different now. Parts still bore the scars of war, but reconstruction was underway everywhere. In what was once Washington, D.C., a new government complex housed the United Earth Defense Command. The architecture combined human design with advanced technology taken from the defeated Krell. Commander Paul West, now president of the Earth Defense Alliance, stood at the window of his office overlooking the rebuilt city. At 53, his hair had more gray than brown, and the lines on his face told stories of hard decisions made during the war. "Mr. President," his assistant called, "Admiral Foster is here with the Council transmission." Paul turned as Karen. Foster entered, accompanied by Captain Steve Johnson. Both wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth's military, decorated with the Phoenix emblem, a rising bird made of stars. "You've confirmed it's genuine?" Paul asked. Karen nodded. "Yes, sir. It's definitely from the Galactic Council. Their security codes match what we have on file from before the betrayal." Paul gestured for them to sit. "Let's see it." Karen activated a holographic projector on the desk. The image of High Counselor, Drax, appeared, the same blue-skinned alien who had led the vote to abandon Earth 7 years ago. He looked older now, his once smooth skin wrinkled with stress. "President West," Drax began, his voice subdued. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I request an urgent meeting with Earth's leadership. The situation is grave." The message continued, explaining that the Voidborn, beings of pure energy that fed on stars, had attacked 3 Council worlds already. Current Council defenses were proving ineffective. "We formally request Earth's assistance in this crisis," Drax concluded. "Despite our past differences." When the message ended, Paul remained silent for a long moment. "Past differences," Karen said with bitter laughter. "That's what he calls leaving us to die." "What do we know about these Voidborn?" Paul asked. Steve pulled out a data tablet. "Based on the information in Ambassador Zorax's distress call and what we've gathered since, they're a non-corporeal species that exists primarily as energy. They consume stellar material to sustain themselves, essentially feeding off stars until they die. And now they're targeting inhabited systems," Paul concluded. "Yes, sir," Karen confirmed. 3 Council worlds have been destroyed so far. Based on the Council's message, 6 more are in immediate danger." Paul stood and walked back to the window. 7 years ago, I ordered Project Phoenix activated because we had no choice. We survived thanks to technology we kept hidden from the Council. Now they want our help." "The Council doesn't deserve our help," Karen said firmly. "I agree," Paul replied. "But this isn't just about the Council anymore." Later that day, Paul convened a meeting of Earth's Leadership Council. Representatives from all regions of Earth attended, along with key military and scientific leaders. "The Council abandoned us," said Maria Garcia, representative from South America. "Let them face the consequences." "I understand the sentiment," Paul replied, "but there's something you all need to see." He nodded to Dr. Olivia Wright, who had been brought back from Mars for this meeting. Olivia stood and activated a holographic display showing the solar system. 3 months ago, we detected an unusual energy signature near Pluto, she explained. We've been monitoring it closely. Yesterday, we confirmed our suspicions. The display zoomed in to show a strange, glowing distortion in space. "This is a Voidborn scout," Olivia continued. "It matches the description from the Council data. They've already found us." A shocked silence fell over the room. "How long until more arrive?" asked the European representative. "Based on the patterns seen in Council space, we estimate 6 months, possibly less," Olivia answered. "They send scouts ahead to assess potential feeding grounds." Paul looked around the table. "Now you understand. The Council's problem is already our problem. The question is whether we face it alone or with allies, even unreliable ones. What exactly does the Council want from us?" asked the African representative. Karen consulted her notes. "They're requesting our neural disruptor technology and access to our hybrid ships. Apparently, no one has had any success against the Voidborn, except for one Earth vessel that accidentally encountered a scout last year. The USS Liberty," Steve added. "Captain Andy Harris reported that their Krell human hybrid shields had an unexpected effect on the Voidborn entity they encountered. It disrupted its energy matrix temporarily. So they need our technology, Maria noted. Technology we developed while they left us to die. Paul nodded. Yes, and that gives us leverage. 2 days later, Paul sat across from High Counselor Drax in the neutral meeting ground of Luna Base, Earth's rebuilt facility on the moon. Drax had arrived alone in a small diplomatic vessel, a far cry from the Grand Council ships of the past. President West, Drax began formally, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Let's be clear, Counselor, Paul replied coldly. I'm here because the Voidborn threaten all of us, not out of any goodwill toward the Council. Drax's blue skin flushed darker with what Paul recognized as shame. That is understood. Before we discuss any assistance, I want the truth, Paul demanded. You knew about the Voidborn before you abandoned Earth, didn't you? Drax hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. The Council had been monitoring their approach for centuries. They emerge from deep space every few thousand years. And the Krell? Where do they fit in? The Krell were fleeing from the Voidborn, Drax admitted. Their home systems were among the first to be consumed in this cycle. When they approached Council space, you directed them toward Earth, Paul finished, his voice hard. A sacrifice to buy time. The decision was not unanimous, Drax said quietly. But yes, we believed the Krell would occupy the Voidborn long enough for us to develop effective defenses. How did that work out for you? Paul asked with bitter sarcasm. Not well, Drax replied. The Voidborn arrived sooner than expected. Our defenses proved inadequate, and Earth not only survived the Krell but defeated them, something we thought impossible. Paul leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. Earth will help fight the Voidborn not for you, but for our own survival. We'll share our technology, but only under our control. And after this is over, the Council will be reformed, with Earth having equal standing to the founding worlds. The older Council members will resist, Drax warned. They can resist all they want, Paul said firmly. But those are our terms. Earth stands with the galaxy, or Earth stands alone and keeps its technology to itself. Drax considered for a long moment, then nodded. I will bring your terms to the Council. But given our situation, I believe they will be accepted. As Drax departed, Paul received a call from Dr. Wright. Mr. President, our scans of the sun have detected something concerning, she reported. There's an energy pattern forming that matches the Voidborn signature. It's in the early stages, but if it continues, they're already targeting our star, Paul concluded grimly. That evening, Paul addressed the people of Earth from the rebuilt Memorial Plaza in Washington. 7 years ago, the galaxy abandoned us, he began. Today, they ask for our help. Some say we should refuse, that we should let the Council face the consequences of their betrayal. He paused, looking directly into the camera. But we will not become what they were. We will not abandon others to die, even those who once abandoned us. We fight not for the Council, but for all life in this galaxy, including our own. As his speech concluded, ships across the solar system began preparing for war once again. But this time, Earth would not fight alone. They would lead the galaxy against a threat that consumed stars themselves. The combined fleet of Earth and Council ships gathered near the Orion Nebula. It was the largest assembly of vessels the galaxy had ever seen, over 300 ships preparing for the final battle against the Voidborn. Admiral Karen Foster stood on the bridge of the flagship USS Redemption, watching as the final ships took position. The massive vessel, nearly twice the size of any previous Earth ship, combined the best of human ingenuity with technologies from both the Krell and the Council races. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain George Wilson announced. Karen nodded. And the Council vessels? In position, but their weapon systems are showing power fluctuations. Their technology still can't maintain stability near Voidborn energy fields. Which is why we're taking the lead, Karen said firmly. On the main view screen, sensors showed the approaching Voidborn armada, not solid ships, but swirling masses of purple-white energy that moved with purpose and intelligence. Already they had consumed 3 stars in nearby systems. President West is ready to address the fleet, George reported. Karen straightened her uniform. Put him through. Paul West's image appeared on screens throughout all ships in the combined fleet. This is President West to all vessels. 10 years ago, Earth stood alone against an enemy we should not have survived. Today we stand with the galaxy against a threat that none can face alone. His voice was steady, determined. The Voidborn have consumed worlds and stars for millennia. They believe nothing can stop them. Today they learn otherwise. Today we fight not just for Earth or the Council, but for every world that wishes to see tomorrow's sunrise. As his speech concluded, Karen turned to her crew. Battle stations. All ships initiate Operation Stardust. The Earth fleet moved forward while Council vessels held position behind them. The human ships had been specially modified with Dr. Wright's newest invention, quantum field generators that could disrupt the Voidborn's energy matrix. Voidborn approaching weapons range, George reported. Their energy output is increasing. Activate adaptive shields, Karen ordered. The Voidborn struck first. Beams of purple energy lashed out, striking several Earth ships, but instead of cutting through them as they had done to Council vessels in previous battles, the attacks were partially absorbed by the modified shields. Shields holding at 82%, George announced with surprise. Dr. Wright's modifications are working. All ships commence firing sequence Alpha, Karen commanded. The Earth fleet fired in perfect coordination. From each ship, pulses of blue-white energy shot forward, striking the Voidborn entities. Where the pulses hit, the purple energy bodies of the Voidborn rippled and destabilized. It's working, Karen said quietly. They're vulnerable. On the diplomatic vessel orbiting safely behind the battle line, Ambassador Diane Cooper watched alongside Council representatives. The aliens who had once looked down on humans now watched in awe as Earth ships held their own against the ancient enemy. Your people have accomplished the impossible, High Counselor Drax admitted. We spent centuries trying to develop weapons against the Voidborn. Sometimes fresh perspectives find solutions that old thinking cannot, Diane replied. That's why the galaxy needs all voices, not just the oldest ones. As the battle raged, Captain Steve Johnson led a special strike team aboard the USS Defiance. His mission was the most dangerous: to deploy the quantum cascade device directly into the largest Voidborn entity. Approaching target, Lieutenant Diane Miller reported, piloting the ship straight toward the swirling purple mass. All hands brace for entry, Steve ordered. Activate full shields. The Defiance plunged into the Voidborn entity. Alarms blared. As energy readings went off the scale, the ship shuddered violently. 20 seconds to core, Diane called out, fighting the controls. Deploy the device, Steve ordered. A small probe launched from the ship carrying Dr. Wright's quantum cascade generator, a device designed to create a chain reaction within the Voidborn's energy matrix. Device deployed. Get us out of here, Steve shouted. The Defiance shot out of the Voidborn entity moments before the device activated. Behind them, the massive purple mass began to collapse, its energy patterns disintegrating. It's working, Karen exclaimed, watching from the Redemption. All ships target remaining entities with quantum pulses. One by one, the Voidborn entities began to collapse as the quantum disruption spread among them. Those that tried to flee were pursued by faster Earth vessels. When the last Voidborn entity dissolved into harmless energy, a cheer went up across the fleet. 2 days later, aboard the Redemption, Earth and Council representatives gathered to discuss the future. President West faced High Counselor Drax across a conference table. The galaxy owes Earth a debt we can never repay, Drax admitted. You're right, Paul agreed. But the past cannot be changed. What matters now is what we build from here. He placed a data crystal on the table. This contains the Galactic Defense Alliance Charter, a new beginning with all worlds as equals. Drax hesitated, then nodded. The Council has agreed to your terms. The old ways failed us all. As the treaty was signed, Admiral Foster looked out at the stars. The Council had betrayed Earth once. They would never make that mistake again. Humanity had transformed from the newcomers of the galaxy to its defenders, and the price of betrayal had been paid in full.